Welcome. In this video, we're going to go through PVST Plus configuration commands on Cisco devices. Now, this video is just one in a much larger series called GNS3 Labs for the CCNA. So if that interests you, you should subscribe and take a look at the rest of the videos as well. In this video, we're just going to have a brief explanation of PVST and PVST Plus, what the difference is between those two, and then we're going to head out to GNS3 and do a lab demonstration. All right, so PVST and PVST Plus stands for per PVST and PVST Plus stands for per VLAN spanning tree. PVST is only supported on ISL trunks, and then PVST Plus is supported on 802.1q trunks, whereas PVST is not. So both of these protocols have a separate instance of 802.1d for every VLAN. And this means that each VLAN is going to have its own route, its own calculations, and it's going to send BPDUs every 2 seconds. And it's also important to note that PVST and PVST Plus do not support fast conversions. All right, so now let's head out to GNS3 and start configuring. All right, so now I have GNS3 pulled up. I do have my topology built already, but it's a very simple topology. Here I have the configuration that I used to get it up to this point. I basically just drag and dropped all of the devices on here. I used the connector tool to connect them up. Here we'll look at interface descriptions so you guys can see how I have that done. And then what did I do? I used the use snap to grid, right? That's how I was able to make them all evenly spaced. And then I powered them on. And I have all of the consoles opened as well. So in terms of configuration, all I did was create the VLANs on all of them, so 10, 20, 30, and 40. And then I used a range command to specify .1q trunking. That's what this one does, is switch port trunk encapsulation .1q. This one does switch port mode trunk. And then this one does switch port trunk allowed VLAN 10, 20, 30, and 40. So all of the VLANs are going to be explicitly allowed. And then I use the host name switch command to put the host names on each of them to correspond to the GNS3 number that you get when you drag and drop the switch onto the topology. Okay, so now let's look at the spanning tree configuration. The first command that we're going to be putting on all of the switches is spanning tree mode PVST. So this just specifies the spanning tree mode as per VLAN spanning tree. And then we get into the priority commands. So for per VLAN spanning tree, you're going to assign priority on a per VLAN basis. That's why with the spanning tree VLAN priority command, that is how you do that. For switches 2 through 7, we're basically going to be taking the assumption that we know that we don't want these switches to be the root priority. So for all the VLANs, 10, 20, 30, and 40, we are assigning the worst possible priority. So when we're assigning priority, the lower the better. So 0 means that it's going to be given the highest priority. And then if we look at the configuration on switch 1, we have spanning tree mode PVST. And then we have the priority statement in which we assign a priority of 0 for VLANs 10 and 20 and a priority of 4096 for VLANs 30 and 40. And when it comes to assigning the priority value, the lower the better. So 0 is actually the highest priority that you can give. And also the priority values go in increments of 4096. And the highest that you can assign would be this one up here, 61440. So essentially what this configuration does is that it gives switch 1 the highest priority for 10 and 20, and then it's going to be the backup route for 30 and 40, giving it the second highest priority, and then the converse for switch 8. And so really what this configuration does is it statically assigns the priority and dictates which switch is going to be the root bridge for the given VLANs, rather than just letting the algorithm determine it, which is definitely how I like to do it when you know for a fact which switches you want to be the root and which ones you don't. All right, so now I am going to paste in the commands. All right, so now we have our verification commands. The first one is going to be do show spanning tree. Do show spanning tree summary, which shows that we are the root bridge for VLAN 1, 10, and 20. And of course, VLAN 10 and 20 are the ones that we statically assigned. And then the algorithm elected it the root bridge for VLAN 1. And show spanning tree summary allows you to see a bunch of general information about the spanning tree process. It shows you how many links are forwarding for that VLAN. And the reason that VLAN 1 is forwarding on 13 links and is active on 13 links is since VLAN 1 is the default VLAN. All right, and then we can use the do show spanning tree VLAN 10 to look at the spanning tree process for the individual VLANs. So on switch 1, VLAN 10, we're going to see that this bridge is the root, which is what we want to see, which is how we configured it. And we can see that it has the designated, that all the links are in the designated forwarding state, which is also just what we want to see. And then if we do the same command for VLAN 30, which we configured it to be the backup root, we should see something different. All right, then we can see we have one root port, and the root port is going to just be the port that is facing towards the root bridge. And we can see that it is not the root bridge. And if you wanted to see the spanning tree relevant configuration, you could put in do show run include span, and that's going to show you the spanning tree commands. So there you can see the mode, extend system ID, and then the priority statements. All right, and then if we wanted to look at it for, switch 8, look at that and we see we have one root port pointing towards the root bridge, and then do this for 30 for which, and then run it for Vlan 30, and we can see that we are the root as it should be. All the ports are in the designated forwarding state and everything's good. Then we can look at switch 5. So it's going to be one of the switches in between, and here the root port is gig 00, and we'll do it for a different VLAN. And this time it's gig 02, which is in the root, and then it even has one that is in the blocking state because it's going to be going in a different direction, pointing towards switch 8. All right, so that concludes this video. If you found this helpful, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.